trykket gå live. Og... Kom så. Crash. Ja, nu ser det ud til at være live. Vil du lige lave en lydtest?
Ja. Det tror jeg allerede, jeg gør.
Ja.
1, 2, 1, 2. Can you guys hear me? We are testing sound. Beginning in few minutes.
Det lyder okay. Kan du prøve at lave en lyd i spillet? Okay, det er fint. Du kan godt skrue en smule op for desktop audioen.
Testing.
Ja, det er fint nok. Det er stadig lidt lavt, men fint. Du kan godt slå mikrofonen til videre fra, så lige lad den stå lidt.
capture. Hello, hello. 1, 2, 3. Sound should be good. Let me just double check here. Properties, yeah. Hello and welcome to part 4 of our Rocketship game. Hopefully we have someone in the chat. Today we will begin with downloading part 3 that we did last time, so we can all get on the same page and continue from basically last stream. That was this Monday. So let me just share my screen. 1 second. Let's see if I can figure this out. There we go. Let's do it like this. And get me on the camera here. There we go. So you should be on YouTube watching the live stream from here. If you scroll down a bit, you should have the description here on the left, where you have all this information. If it doesn't show, you might have to expand somewhere. There might be a show more, like this one. Just simply click this button to access the links. The link you want to press is the first one right here, called Scratch MIT. If you click this one, it will direct you to Scratch own website, where we have all our projects that we are making in the different parts. The one that you want to download is the one called Rocketship Part 3. The one right here with the nice space background. I think it's pretty cool. So the way you download it is that you simply click it. This will open up the game where you can actually play it. So we can actually press the green flag here and start play the actual game that we're making. But we want to download it so we can keep on improving the game. So I'm gonna stop the game again. So to download the game so you can start working on it, you have to press the blue button on the top right here, where it says, in my case this is Danish, but click the blue button up here. It will open up Scratch in your web browser like you have on your computer. You can work on it from here, but you can also download it. The way you do this is you simply go up to the top left where it says File. I'm just gonna change the language to English. There we go. On the top left it says File. So click this one. This is also the one that we use for saving and loading our game. In this case we want to save to your computer. So click the last option. This will have a small pop-up screen where it says if you want to save, and you want to make sure you select the last option here where it says Save As, and then press OK. Now it should be saved. Actually, I'm gonna do it one more time because I didn't see where it saved it. So press again save, and it should be saving it. Okay, yes, so I'm using Firefox. So on the top right there's this arrow, the blue arrow right here, where I can see my downloaded file. You can also go into your folder on Windows, down here on the left, all the way at the bottom, and into downloads. It should be the first one right here. So now that we have it downloaded, we can open up Scratch that we have locally on your computer. So I'm gonna close these browsers, and you'll see I have Scratch open right here. This is an empty project, so we're gonna load the file that we just downloaded by going up to File and then Load from your computer. This will open up a window again, and simply navigate to Downloads here on the left. It should be in here as the first option. So I'm gonna select this by clicking it once, and then go down to the bottom right and click Open. Now we are back in business and we can start coding on the game again. So first I want to test it just to see what we made last time and how far we have gotten, and what we might make today. So currently we have a rocket ship that flies after our cursor, our mouse cursor, and we can shoot by pressing a key on the keyboard. In my case here, it's the space. So we can shoot in the direction that Rocketship is pointing. We can also destroy these black things, and they split up in 3 parts and they scatter around. And if we hit any of these, we will lose the game. And basically the game stops. Everything pauses and we are basically game over. We also added on the top left here a timer to see how long we actually have survived the game. So that's how far we have gotten. Today we will use the timer to increase the difficulty when we play the game. So the further that we get, the harder the game will become. So at some point it will be near impossible, and we can basically it's our own decision on how far people should get. Should it take 30 seconds or 60 seconds before it becomes near impossible? But let's see if we can add this to the game first, and then we can play around with it. So we want to change the way that we are spawning these black rocks, and the code for this is inside our background here on the right. So click the background, and we should have some code in here. I'm just gonna move this a bit. The first block of code that we have right here is for creating rocks every 3 seconds, and this won't increase the difficulty, so we're gonna add something that tells or looks at the timer. When we have passed maybe, let's say 10 seconds, then we are gonna spawn 2 rocks at a time to increase the difficulty. So let's see if we can make this first. First we're gonna add it so it spawns 2 rocks, and then we're gonna control it that it happens after 10 seconds. So to create a second rock every 3 seconds, we simply just add another one of these create clone. So there are 2 ways of adding this. We can simply just duplicate the current block by right clicking and then duplicate, then you have a second one. We can also find it in control, and then at the bottom you should have one called create clone, and the second one here says create clone of boss. We want it to be the rock, so simply just select it and select the correct option. So now if we test the game, after 3 seconds 2 rocks will actually spawn. But we only want this to happen if you have played the game long enough. So 2 rocks should only spawn after a certain amount of time inside your game. This is where we need our variable that holds the timer that we made last time. And you can actually see over here where we control the timer on the right block here. This is where we set the timer to 0 whenever we start the game, and the next will just make the timer count 1 second. We want to look at the timer to see, has it passed 10, has it passed 20, and then do something different in the game. And the way we do this is we need the if block to ask the question or to look for it, and you find that in control. So find the if block right here, and then we need to put something in here with the timer. So go into variables here on the bottom of the blocks here. That's the dark orange. You should have one called timer. This little block here holds the number of the timer. So right now it has the number 5, as you can see in my game. But this will keep changing inside this block. So we want to check, has this passed 10? And to do this we need our green operators. This is where we can check numbers and do some mathematics. So in operators we are looking for one that is looking if the number is lower than a set number that we have. So to give you an example, we need the first one right here of these. It has this like crocodile thing eating stuff. Make sure you take the first one of these. unless it's gonna work the other way around. But pick the one on the top right here, and then insert the timer in the first white space. So right now it says if the timer is bigger than the number 50, then we will do something different in the game. We don't want to wait 50 seconds for the game to be more difficult. That wouldn't be fun. So we're gonna set this to be 10.
Daniel?
Ja?
Du skal skifte til window capture.
It's very small. Yes, I will make this scratch bigger for you. Great. Let's see, display capture. There we go. Much better. The game was it might have been a bit difficult to read, but I'm gonna zoom in here. Great. Now you should be able to read the actual code without being close to the screen. Yes, but as I said, right now this green block is is telling us if the timer is actually bigger than the number 10. So we can add this green one into the if and do something with it now. So I'm gonna take out these to create clone of the rock and add this if inside instead. And before we continue, we're gonna add these to. So basically, we are moving the two create clone of the rock. Put them inside the new if statement that we have. If question. So if the timer is now bigger than 10, it will create two clones of the rock. We want it to create only one clone when it's lower than 10. And one way of doing this, there are multiple ways, but one way that we can do it is add another if, asking if the timer is lower than 10. So let's find another if right here. Actually, I'm gonna duplicate the code that we actually have, so we don't have to find all the blocks again. I think this is a very good thing to know. So if we right click the if block here and then select duplicate, then we actually get an exact copy of the 5 blocks. And we just want to change the green one right here. If we go into operators, now you want to pick the middle one. So if we take this, and you can see that the middle section here is different. It points in the other direction. So if we take the timer and put it down to the second one, we're gonna remove the first one because we don't need it. And then again change the number from 50 to 10. So now this green block tells us that the timer is lower than 10. Then we will do something. So add this to the if. And we don't want to spawn 2 rocks when we are lower than 10 in the timer. So simply just remove one of the clones. And now we can add this second if to our forever block. Great. Let's test all this code that we just made to see if we can, if it actually is working. So now it should only spawn 1. Apparently it's not spawning anything. Oh, there we go. That seems to be working. Okay. Let me just start the game again. It should be spawning 1. Okay, there we go. So when the timer is lower than 10, it only spawns 1, but when it goes higher than the number 10, now it spawns 2 at a time, making it a bit more difficult to actually avoid. But you see some of them are spawning on the same location. Oh. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now we can actually increase. We can even make it so that if the time passes 20, then we will spawn 3 rocks by just adding another one of these if. But I think we should move on. Now we can actually increase the difficulty. I want to add a boss at the end. Let's say if you survive for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, then a boss will spawn that you have to kill to complete the game. And I actually want to make this interesting. So we want to make the boss float around after our spaceship, and if he reaches us, then we will lose the game. The way we are gonna destroy the boss is by shooting it with our fire that we have made. So first we need to find our boss figure or character. We had the cat here in the beginning, so and we chose to hide it. So simply, if you still have the cat, simply select it and then press unhide, and then it will appear on the screen. I'm gonna use the cat as my final boss in this game. You can add a new one by simply going on the bottom right here to choose a sprite and then select any kind of character that you want. But I'm gonna use the cat as my final boss when we play the game. And he will spawn after 30 seconds. We can change that, but 30 seconds is nice, I think. The first thing that we're gonna make is the way the boss is moving after the rocket, or after our player. He's kind of chasing it. That's the idea. So let's start by making that first. So we're gonna add some code to this boss character, and whenever we start the game, that's when we need the green flag. So if we go on to events, and we want to first check if the timer has reached what's called 30, then the boss will actually spawn or be shown on screen. So we are needing one of the show here in the looks, because we're gonna hide him until the timer is actually at 30. But we're gonna wait with the show because currently we just want to make the boss work, and then when we are done with him, we are gonna hide him and then start playing the game. So let's start making our boss move around. For this we need movement in the blue blocks. We need to move 10 steps. 10 is too fast, and I'm gonna show you that in just a second. And for the next one, we're gonna have it turn or point towards to our character or our player, because he's moving towards him. So we need him to look at the rocket. And an easy way to have him point towards a certain object is by selecting the point towards down here. Normally by default it will say point towards mouse pointer, but we are gonna change it into let's see here, player, I called him. We need one more thing for this to work, because we need a forever to make it happen all the time. So if you go into control and find forever and add it around. So if I test the game now, you can see him moving way too fast for me to actually avoid him. I'm gonna lower the speed to 2. I think that's better. As you can see now, I actually have a chance of dodging him without him being too fast, but he is trying to catch me. So I think this is pretty good, and I still have to avoid all these black rocks that's coming from left, but that just makes the game more fun and more difficult. I think that's pretty cool. The next thing we are making is giving our boss health. So to win the game, we have to destroy the boss by getting his health bar to 0. So to make the boss have like 5 health or 10 health, we need to have a variable like our timer that we can put in a number and then change it down to 0 at some point. So we need to make another variable here on the left, go into variable, and then at the top here, make a variable. So in here I'm gonna call this boss HP, because that is what it is. And then make sure you select for all sprites. Now you should have something called here boss HP in your game. You can move it around as you like. I'm gonna put it on the right here. So now we have the boss HP, but it's currently set to 0, so he's already dead. So the first thing we need when we are spawning the boss, or at least starting the game actually, is setting the boss's HP to the amount that we want. For my case, I want him to have 5 health. So we're gonna add another green flag and add it to the left here. Gonna move the show a bit, and then we're gonna go down to variables again, and in here we want to set our boss HP to something. We don't want to change it, but we want to set it to a certain number. So pick the first one here and put in the amount of HP that he should have. So I'm gonna put 5. So if we test the game now, you can see the boss HP here on the top right changes to 5. So this is the amount of health. This is the amount of times that I have to shoot the boss to win the game. And for this to work, we need to detect if the fire is hitting the boss. And again, you guessed it, we will need a green flag for when we start the game. And now we need to check, are we being hit by fire? And we have done this a lot of times where we are detecting, are we hitting one of the edges? Are we, like with the rocks, is that being hit by fire? Then we will be destroyed. So it's the same thing here, but it's good practice. So we need to go into control, have forever, because we need to keep asking the question throughout the game, and if block, and then a sensing block for are we hitting fire, and then we need to, from this touching the block, select fire, add it to the if, and then add it to there. So you should have something like this. So this block now tells the boss, are we being hit by fire? Then we need to do something. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna change the boss's HP by 1, going down. So if he is hit the first time, he'll go down to 4 health, and then 3 health, and then 2, and then 1, and then 0, and then we win the game. So pretty cool. The way we change it is by going into variables again. And instead of the set that we used for when we start the game, we are changing it by something. So that's the second block here. So if you add that into here, so right now we can actually test it and see what happens. So if I'm shooting it, you can see it goes upwards. So now it's at 11 health. So we want to subtract it by 1 instead of adding a 1 to it. So the way we subtract is by changing the number 1 to a -1, and simply put a dash in front of the number. So it should look something like this. So if I test the game now, it starts at 5 health again because we set it to. So if I hit him, and it counts more than 1 time, and that's the next thing that we are gonna fix. As you can see, I hit him once, and then it went all the way down to a minus number. The way we can fix this is by going into fire. So we have to find our fire character. So if we go in here, and the same place where we are deleting it if it hits one of the edges, we are adding, if it hits the player, it will also destroy itself. So we simply just copy the if block that we have here by right clicking and then duplicate, add it right underneath. Make sure it's not inside the other if, but below it or above it is also fine. Change the if touching edge to if it's touching the boss. Yes, because if we're touching the boss, it should also destroy itself. if we test the game now, I do think we have something working. Let's see. No. If it's touching the boss, delete. See, we might have a small issue here, but that's fine. So currently it is destroying itself, but it's not subtracting 1. So if we go into player, oh no, wait, the boss, where we are actually trying to change it. If it's touched by fire, then it should subtract by 1. Okay, go back to fire, where we are just added this code. We are gonna put in a wait before it actually destroys it. This should be working. So the wait block is in control. So just for testing, we're gonna add this wait before we delete the clone. And instead of 1 second, we're gonna put it down to 0, and then a dot, and then 1. 0.1, we call this. And if we press start the game, and I will try and shoot him. See, it still counts way too many times. So this wait block did not work. So let's remove this again. And go into, let's see here. Go back to our boss. A small issue, so we can subtract it by, if it's touched by fire, subtract 1. Going back to our fire. So let's see, if we take this, so I'm just gonna split up the code. So if you take out the if that we just added here on the bottom, take it out, and then we're gonna add it to its own when I start as a clone. I'm gonna scroll down a bit. So we need 2 more blocks here. We need 1 forever and 1 when I start as a clone. So if we go in here and add these 2 blocks, we should have it separate now. If it's touching the boss, it will delete itself. And actually, this is where we are gonna change the boss's HP by 1. And so we can actually go back to our boss and then simply remove this for now. Just take this one out. We're gonna delete this code in just a bit when we actually see it is working. So simply drag this out so it looks empty inside this green flag. Go back to fire. So we're jumping a lot of back and forth here, but we found a minor issue that we are trying to solve together. So here in this code on the fire, where we are saying if the fire is touching the boss, it will also destroy itself. But before it destroys itself, it will change the number or the HP of the boss. So again, to change the boss's HP, we have to find a variable for it. And there is one called change. So simply add this right above, delete this clone. And make sure to put in the dash in front again. So it actually subtracts 1 instead of adding 1. So let's test the game to see if it's working now. And it seems to be working. And I lost the game. Quite unfortunate. So I managed to take 2 HP off the boss. So now we actually have a way of basically taking HP off the boss. And the last thing that the next thing that we need to add is whenever it hits 0, this is when we win the game. And then we need a victory screen of some sort. So we need to have another stage, another background that we can change into. So I'm quickly gonna make one. You can design it however you want, but I will show you how I create mine. It's similar to our previous game, just a simple you win the game. But I'm not gonna choose a already made background. I'm gonna paint it myself. So if you select the paint, you should get a new screen here where you can start painting. I'm gonna change the color here to a more orange, like, and then more dark orange. And to increase the brush, like you can see, it's not very big, this that I'm painting with. To increase this, you can increase the number right here from 10 to maybe 25. I think that's fine. If you made a mistake in your drawing, you can simply press the arrow to the left right here on the top, and then it will go one step back. So I'm just gonna write here you win. Let's see. You win. I think that's pretty nice. You can see it's already showing on the game screen, and we don't want that. So simply select, as you can see here on the left. Now we have two backgrounds. We have our game background, and then we have our winning screen. So simply select the first one right here. Then it will show on the game screen. Now we have to go back to our code. So since we have two backgrounds that we are changing between, we need to make sure whenever we start the game, the correct background will always be shown in the beginning, which is, in my case, is the space background. So whenever we click the green flag, it should always select this background. And to do this, I will add this code to our background, or our stage code, we should call it. So if you select the stage over here and then have the code, we will add this on top of everything. So add another green flag here and have it up here. It's only 2 or 3 blocks that we need to add. So since we're changing the looks of the game, we have to go into our purple blocks. And the one that we need is switch backdrop to the first one actually, and add that to our green flag. Right now it says Nebula. That's the name of my current background. If you are unsure of what name your background has, you can go into backdrops here on the top left. Then you are back to the drawing screen, and you can see the names here on the left, where it says Nebula and then backdrop 1. Moving back to the code, I'm now certain that whenever I start the game, it will always choose the space background for my game. So the way that we win is we need to change the background into you win whenever the boss's HP reaches 0. And then we need to pause everything, because then we can see how fast did we actually complete the game. Because we have the timer to keep track of that, and then you can compete with your friends on how fast you can manage to, or how long it took you for beating the boss. So let's go back to our boss code. So select your boss down here, and as I mentioned, we don't need the code that we actually put in here, the last two. So simply remove these, so you only have the top ones right here, where it says set boss's HP to 5. You can add any number. You can give it 900 health, 9000 if you want, or you can, as me, put in a 5 or a 10, but this is where you do it. Now we need him to, so let's make it so we can actually win the game. So we need to check what HP is the boss currently at. So we need, again, another green flag. Go into the events, the yellow ones, add a green flag, gonna add it here. We need to check now, have the boss's HP reached 0? So again, forever and if are the two most or very important blocks to use. So we need these two. Now we need to check, like we did with the timer, if it has reached a certain number, and we need the green ones to do this. For this one, you need to select the last one of the 3 right here, the one with the equal sign, and then we need to say it should be equal to, instead of 50, to 0. In the first white space here, you need to add the boss's HP variable, which is found under the dark orange, and then at the top right here. This block that I'm holding holds the boss's HP number. So this will change throughout the game as you are hitting the boss. So simply add that to the first white space. Take the green one, add it to your if. And now we can do something with it. And the way we actually show that we are winning the game is by changing the background and pausing the game. So if you can reach the you win screen, then you won the game. Like I just showed you with how whenever we start the game, we set the background to a certain background that we have. We need the same block for this one, since if the boss's HP reaches 0, then we'll change the background. So go into looks, and now it's not the first block anymore, so you have to scroll down. I think we should be able to find, yes, right here. It's somewhere in the middle. The one called switch backdrop is the one that you need, and not the one that called switch costume, but you need the one that says backdrop right here. Put this into the block and make sure you change what right now it says nebula, but that's my current background. I want it to be the one called backdrop 1. Backdrop 1 is not a good name because I don't remember what it's for, so I'm actually going to rename it. So to rename your backgrounds that you have made, you simply have to click stage here on the right, and then all the way on the top left, select backdrops, and find your background here on the left, select it, and then you have the name here on the top where it says backdrop 1. I'm actually gonna rename this to you win, like this, and just click anywhere on the screen and then it will save. So if we jump back a few steps to the code again on the top left, and then into our, I think it was our boss, yeah. Now you can see it says switch backdrop to you win. Now it's easier to remember. So if the boss hits 0, then we will win the game. And let's see if I can actually manage to win the game. No, I lost. One more time. I won. And if I start the game again, you can see the background goes back to the original. One thing I didn't add was pause the game whenever we won, so let's add that one. You can find the pause game in events. No, actually it's in control. So the orange blocks at the bottom here, there is one called stop. Stop all, and simply add that after we change the background. So it looks something like this. So now we have a boss working, and now we just need him to spawn after a certain amount of time. And the way we do this is we need to check if the timer has reached like 30 or 20, and then we need to unhide him, like show him. That's why we have the show block right here. I think a good way of doing this would be, again, to find a new green flag. Let's see here. This will be the last thing that we are gonna make for today. Find a green flag here. And we need an if and forever. Who would have guessed? We use these a lot. Use forever and if. And now we need the green ones again to check, has the time reached a certain amount. We can actually go into operators, and again we need the last one of these three, the one with an equal sign. And here we want to add our timer. Instead of boss HP, we need to add timer, which is in variables here, and then find the timer. Great, so in here add that to here. So this block right now says if the timer has reached 50, then we will spawn the boss after 50 seconds. But I want this to be after 30 seconds. And the way we spawn him is by, we are gonna hide or show him. So add the show block. Let's see here. Yes. but we also want him to start in a certain position. So I want the boss, my cat here, to start from the top left. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move him all the way up here by just simply using my mouse, and then go into our blue blocks and find the block that says go to right here. You can see if I move him around, the numbers are changing inside the go to, which is why it's important that you first move him to the position that you want him to start in, and then you take the block out that you need, go to X and Y, and add that above the show block. This way he will start in that position and start moving towards our player, giving us a chance to actually avoid him. Yes, let's 30 seconds. Let's see if I can actually, no. So we already have an issue right here, as he is there to begin with. We also need him to not move around while he is not showing on screen. So as you remember here in the beginning, we added the movement for the boss. We want that to only happen if the timer is higher than 30. So we need an if again, similar to the one that we just made. So find if, and in this one we need the green one again. This time we need the, let's see here, the first one of the three right here. So the first one, add that into our if. We need the timer variable, the timer box that holds the timer. Add that into the first one. If timer is now bigger than 30, because that's when the boss is spawning, then he is allowed to start moving towards the player. So we need to make sure that we add the if around the movement blocks. So it should look something like this. So when the timer reaches 30, then he will appear and then he will start move towards the player. We need to hide him whenever we start the game. So let's do that here in the same place where we put in the HP for the boss. And you guessed it, looks is where we can hide him, where we found the show block. There's one called hide. Simply add that underneath the set HP. So starting the game now, the boss is not there, and timer goes, and I'm trying to survive for 30 seconds. Let's see if I'm good at my own game. 10 seconds, now it becomes more difficult. And it becomes too easy. 20 seconds, 10 more seconds. Hopefully it works. 5 seconds. Let's see. And he should appear. There we go. And he starts moving towards us. And we have to shoot him. Let's see if we can survive. Oh, no, I lost. I lost the game. But it worked as intended. I managed to get him to 3 health. I think we needed one last thing. I'm not sure if we are hitting the boss, we are actually losing the game, but we can add that quickly. Going into our boss here again. Let's add this at the bottom of all our code. Again, a new green flag, a forever, and an if asking if we are hitting the player, then we should stop all. So going into control, forever, if, events for the green flag, the light blue for are we touching the player. It's going a bit fast now, but I think you know these blocks now and what I'm trying to do. And in here we are stopping the game if the boss actually reached the player. So in control at the bottom you have to stop all. I'm actually not okay with how big the boss is, so I'm actually gonna shrink him a bit by changing the size number on my boss to 75. Press enter. I think that's better. But yes, basically that's it for the Rocketship game. I think it became pretty good. It's a whole game with both difficulty increase and shooting mechanics and like the rocks that shatter. I think that's pretty awesome. And also a mini boss at the very end. So now we basically have a game that you can compete with friends or family to see if they can complete your game first of all, and how fast they can actually manage to defeat the boss. I think that's pretty awesome. So make sure that you actually save your progress, your game, play around with any of the numbers that we have added to it, so you can actually make it crazy. It's also all up to you. But make sure that you go up to files here and select the last option to save it on your computer. I'm gonna show you the last time here how to do it. So everyone is managing to save your progress. So I'm gonna change my screen again to this one right here, and I'm gonna zoom in. It might be a bit difficult to see now, but all the way up here to the left, select file and then save. You should have a pop-up screen that allows you to, at the bottom here, to give it a name. So I'm gonna call this Rocketship Part 4, and make sure you save it someplace where you can find it. So either press Documents or Downloads here on the left, and then press Save, and then you're all good. So that's it for today's game. So far we have managed to make 2 games throughout these online sessions. I think that's pretty awesome. We have one more stream coming in 2 weeks. That will be the last stream for this year, and we will make it a special stream where we want to try your games. So if you could send us your games that you have made with us, and then we will play them on stream and test or try out what you have made, and basically just have an awesome time seeing everyone what they have made, and different version. If you use different characters, or if you made some if you made the boss have like say 990 health or anything, we would be so happy if you could send us your version of the games, and then we will play them on stream and just have a nice time. It's gonna be somewhat of a Christmas special for us at least, but that will be on, I think it's, let's see here the dates, on December 2nd will be the last stream. Next week there won't be a stream. It will be pushed to the December 2nd, because we managed to do 2 streams this week. So next week will be an off week for us. But yes, if you need help sending us your game, or if you have any questions, please let us know on Facebook or here in the comments on YouTube. We will be more than happy to help you, and we hope that as many as possible will like to share your games with us, so we can show everyone or at least try your games. That would be so awesome. But that's more or less it for today, and we will see you guys in 2 weeks, December 2nd. So yes, take care, see you guys.